In the dark and quiet space between stars, something moved. Not fast, not loud, but slow and silent. It drifted like a forgotten ghost. The Vorlak Dominion, a powerful alien empire, ruled this part of the galaxy. They believed they knew everything about the stars, the planets, and the creatures in this region. Their technology was advanced. Their sensors could detect even the smallest object in deep space. But this thing, this strange object, had been invisible until now. Inside a massive Vorlak listening post, deep in the Kellen 4 asteroid belt, a junior technician noticed something odd. A faint signal. It came only once. Then silence, then again. A pulse, weak, broken, but very old. The technician frowned. He tapped his screen. The signal wasn't natural. It had a pattern, not a planet's noise, not static. It was a distress signal, human. Commander Orvok, the technician called, his voice shaking. I think you should see this. The commander walked over, annoyed. Another ghost reading? No. Sir, this is different. It's using old Terran code. Orvok froze. Terran, as in human? But humans died out over 300 years ago, he whispered. They're extinct. The technician didn't answer. He only zoomed in on the signal source. A dead sector. A black space where no ships traveled, no planets, no stars. Just dark matter and ancient debris. Send a scout ship, Orvok ordered. 3 days later, a small Vorlit patrol ship, the VNS Harbinger, arrived near the source. The crew, made of 5 alien soldiers and 2 scientists, stared at their screens in confusion. There it is, one of the pilots said slowly. Floating before them was a human warship, black, silent, covered in dust and old battle scars. It did not move. It did not answer hails. It was like a corpse. The name was barely visible on its side. Revenant. One of the scientists gasped. This ship is from the final human war. It's over 3 centuries old. It should be dust. But it's intact, the captain replied. No damage to the hull. It's not decaying. The pilot tried scanning the inside. Getting strange readings, sir. No power, but some energy spikes. Could be movement. Life? The captain asked. I don't know. The scientist looked pale. This ship shouldn't be here. Humanity lost that war. Every record said this ship was destroyed in the Battle of Vega. And yet, the captain said, it's here. The crew voted. They had to know more. If this ship still had human tech, it could be dangerous or valuable. They docked. The airlock opened with a long hiss. Darkness greeted them. The lights inside the Revenant were dead. Only their helmet torches lit the way. Stay together, the captain ordered. Record everything. They stepped into the hallway. Dust floated in the air. The walls were scratched, claw marks. Deep ones, not from outside, but from inside. It's like something tried to escape, one soldier said. No, another whispered. Something tried to get out. As they moved deeper into the ship, they reached a control room. The consoles were broken, wires hanging like vines. There was blood on the floor, dry and black. Too old to test. There was a battle here, the scientist whispered. But who fought? The motion detector beeped. One of the soldiers quickly turned. Movement. Sector 3. They froze. Could be a rat. One joked nervously. There are no rats in space, another replied, gripping his weapon tighter. Suddenly, a low sound echoed through the hallway. A whisper. Faint, but real. You came. Too close. They turned. Weapons raised. Nothing. Did you hear that? The captain asked. Everyone nodded. It came from inside the walls. One soldier, Varrock, was sent to check the engine room. He moved alone, his flashlight cutting through the thick darkness. His boots echoed with every step. The engines were cold, dead. covered in wires and ancient tech. Varrock touched a console. It sparked, just a little. Then, the lights flickered. Power spike, he reported over comms. Did you activate something? The captain asked. No, His sentence stopped. There was a noise behind him, a soft step. Like bare feet. On metal, who's there? Varrock turned, flashlight pointing. Nothing, just machinery. He walked forward slowly. The light caught something. A figure. Human-shaped, standing still, facing away. Identify yourself. Varrock shouted. No reply. He stepped closer. Suddenly, the figure turned. It had no eyes, no mouth. Its face was a smooth mask. But it was moving. Varrock screamed. Then silence. Back at the control room, the others heard the scream. Varrock, respond. The captain shouted. No reply. The scientist checked the cameras. Wait, look at this. On the grainy screen, a figure walked past the hallway camera. Not alien, not fully human. It moved like a shadow. Slow, but it knew they were watching. The screen glitched. Shut down all access, the captain ordered. We're not alone. They tried to retreat to their ship. But the airlock was gone, or rather the hallway had changed. It wasn't like this before, one soldier said, panicked. Where's the dock? It's moving, the scientist whispered. The ship, it's changing its shape. That's when the ship spoke. A voice came from all directions. Welcome, aboard. The lights turned red. The floor trembled. The Revenant was awake. Suddenly, the crew saw movement all around. Walls shifting, doors closing. And whispers louder now. You should have stayed away. One soldier fired at the wall. Sparks flew. But nothing stopped. They ran toward the escape pods. But when they reached the pod bay, there were no pods left. Only open holes leading to space. The ship ate them? Someone cried. No one answered. Because now they heard footsteps behind them. One, then two, then many. They turned. Shadows moved in the corridor. Long arms, twisted faces, not human, not alien. Something in between, the scientist screamed. This ship is a prison. No, the captain said, his voice cold. This ship is a tomb. They reached a sealed door marked restricted. Core room. It opened. On its own. Inside, there was a pod. Glass. Glowing. Inside it, a man floated. Pale. Eyes closed. Tubes in his arms and chest. His heart was beating. The readings showed he was alive. Barely. The scientist checked the monitor. This is a human soldier, she whispered, from the last war. But he's connected to the ship systems. His mind is inside the computer. He's dreaming. The captain realized. Yes, she nodded. And his dreams are keeping the ship alive. Suddenly, the man's eyes opened. The screens lit up. The ship's voice returned. This time, calm, cold, human. You entered the grave of a forgotten war. You woke me. Now you cannot leave. All lights turned blue. The floor rumbled. In space, outside the Revenant, other Vorlek ships received a warning. This ship is not abandoned. It is watching, and it remembers. Back inside, the crew stood frozen. The human inside the pod stared at them through the glass. The ship's systems began to shift. Energy flowed. Weapons armed. Engines hummed to life. The warship was waking up. What is this? The captain whispered. The voice answered. This is revenge. The warship was now alive. Inside its cold and metallic body, strange lights flickered across the control panels. Warning sounds echoed through the halls like ghostly cries. The air felt heavier. The walls seemed closer. The shadows moved. The Vorlek crew of the Harbinger stood frozen. Their weapons pointed at the sleeping man in the glass pod. He didn't move, but his eyes were open now, watching. His heart monitor beeped steadily. His breath fogged up the glass slightly. The tubes in his chest glowed faintly blue. He looked weak, but the ship around him reacted as if he was the brain behind everything. One of the soldiers, Yelkar, whispered, "He's not just alive, he's controlling this ship." The scientist nodded slowly. "He's wired into the systems. If he wakes up fully, we may not survive." The captain, still holding his weapon, stared at the man. "But how? This ship is 300 years old. How is he still alive?" The scientist accessed the panel next to the pod. She read the old human logs, translating them from English to Verlaki. "Project Revenant," she read aloud. "Last of the human super soldiers. Designed to be one with. The ship, a living AI interface, biosleep enabled. Only to awaken if humanity's core systems are under threat." She paused. Her voice trembled. He never woke up until now. Outside, the alien fleet orbiting the Revenant began to detect energy spikes. They saw the ship, once dark and powerless, now glowing from within. Shields activated. Weapons powered up. "No one is sending commands," one alien officer said. "It's doing this on its own." They tried to jam the ship's systems. Nothing worked. Then, a message was sent to all Vorlak ships nearby. A human voice spoke in cold, calm tones. "You found what was meant to be forgotten. You opened a tomb. You woke the ghost. Now you will join the silence." Back inside the Revenant, the ship began to shift again. The doors closed behind the crew. Lights turned red. Traps activated. One soldier was caught by a sliding wall. It crushed him instantly. His scream was brief. The others opened fire, but their bullets did nothing. The walls absorbed them like the ship was breathing. "It's protecting him," the captain growled. "He's its heart." The scientist looked at the pod and said quietly, "He's not just part of the ship. He's the ship." Suddenly, the man inside twitched. His fingers moved slightly. His eyes blinked. The pod hissed. The seal broke. "No, don't open it." The scientist shouted, but it was too late. The pod slowly slid open, releasing cold steam. The man stepped out, weak, barefoot, shirtless. But his eyes were clear, bright blue and glowing. He looked at the crew, not with fear, but with anger. "Who are you?" the captain asked, his weapon still aimed. The man didn't answer. Instead, he looked around the room, touching the walls, like he was touching his own skin. "This ship," he said slowly, his voice rough from sleep, "was made to be silent. You broke that silence." "We didn't mean to," the scientist began. He turned to her. "You docked, you entered. You touched memories that were not yours. Now you can't leave." The captain stepped forward. "We're not enemies. We're just explorers." The man gave a bitter smile. "Explorers? That's what they said the first time, before they burned Earth." Outside, the Vorlak command ship prepared to launch missiles at the Revenant. "Target locked," said the officer. "Fire on my command." But the weapons system froze. Then it turned on them. The Revenant hacked their systems. In 1 second, the Vorlak destroyer lost all control. Its own missiles fired at itself. An explosion lit up the dark side of the planet. Panic spread in the fleet. Inside, the crew of the Harbinger realized they were now prisoners of a ship that was no longer just a machine, but a living creature, with a soul that remembered pain, war, and death. The man, whose name was still unknown, walked slowly toward the main control chamber. The crew followed. They had no choice. Inside the control center, hundreds of small holograms floated in the air. Faces, places, battles, history. He waved his hand, and it all lit up. He showed them Earth, burning, human cities turned to ash, alien fleets above, destroying everything. "You think humans were weak," he said. "You think you won." He looked at them. "But humans never forget." He sat in the command chair. It connected to his body immediately. The ship's systems flared. Engines glowed. Outside, space warped. "Where are you going?" the captain asked. The man turned to him and said simply, "Home." The scientist whispered, "But Earth is gone." He didn't answer. He only looked ahead. His voice was low, calm, and cold. Then someone must remember. Suddenly, alarms blared. More alien ships arrived. Vorlek reinforcements. Dozens of them, all armed. All ready to destroy the Revenant. The alien admiral broadcasted a final warning. "Surrender the ship, or be destroyed." The Revenant replied with only 3 words. "Come and try." Inside, the man looked at the remaining crew. "You woke me. You stay. If you survive, you will tell the others what you saw." The crew realized. They were now witnesses to something ancient and terrifying. A legend reborn. Outside, the battle began. The Revenant moved through space like a ghost, untrackable, unstoppable. Missiles missed. Lasers deflected. It moved before they could lock targets. It knew their tactics. It knew their fears. Inside the control room, the captain, still shocked, asked quietly, Who are you really?" The man did not look at him. He simply answered, "I am the last echo of a dead world. I am what you left behind. I am the Revenant." The warship Revenant floated silently in space, but inside, it was alive. Its heart, once a man, now something more, sat in the command chair. His body looked human, but his mind had become part of the machine. The alien crew from the Harbinger. Vorlek stood behind him. They were prisoners, but not in chains. The ship itself had locked them inside. The doors obeyed him. The walls moved for him. And when he breathed, the entire ship seemed to exhale. No one dared to speak. Finally, one alien soldier, Reth, whispered to the captain, "Why hasn't he killed us?" The human heard him. "I am not here to kill," he said without turning. "I'm here to remember." The crew looked at each other nervously. That answer gave them no comfort. Far outside, the Vorlek fleet prepared for battle. The command cruiser sent a full data burst to the Emperor. "The human ship has awakened. It is manned by a living mind. Enemy is not machine. Enemy is not dead. Enemy is human." The reply came quickly. "Destroy it. All forces engage. No survivors." Inside the Revenant, the human pilot smiled faintly. He already knew what was coming. He turned his glowing eyes toward the crew. "Your people are coming. With fire, with fear, and they will fail." The scientist, Jula, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but shaken. "You were asleep for centuries. You don't know how much we've changed." He looked at her. "No, I know exactly what you've become." Suddenly, alarms flashed. The Revenant's internal sensors showed over 60 warships approaching. Missile locks, high-powered plasma cannons. Shields raised. But the human didn't panic. Instead, he gave a command. "Activate Ghost Protocol." The lights dimmed. The ship shimmered. And then it vanished. Outside, the Vorlak fleet screamed in confusion. "Target lost." It disappeared. "No, not cloaked," one shouted. "It's in our blind spots." The Revenant moved between their sensors, using dead angles and gravity wells. It slid through the enemy formation like a shadow in fog. Then, without warning, it struck. One Vorlak ship exploded from within. The Revenant had hacked it silently and made its engines overheat. Another ship had its airlocks open in space. Its crew pulled into the void, but not a single shot had been fired. Terror began to spread. Back inside the Revenant, one Vorlak soldier named Darnuk broke down. He shouted, "You're a monster. You're no human." The pilot stood slowly. He walked toward Darnuk. "I was human once," he said. "I had a family, a name, a home." He stopped inches from Darnuk's face. "Your people took that from Me. Then he stepped back. And now I take your courage. Suddenly, the lights in the ship turned blue. A small section of the wall opened, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, there were pods. Many of them. Inside each pod was a frozen soldier. Human. Jula gasped. Are those others like you? The man nodded. They were my team. Project Revenant. We were the last line of defense. Why are they asleep? She asked. They died in the last battle. But the ship kept their minds alive, waiting, watching. The walls began to pulse. One of the pods lit up. A heartbeat returned. A man inside opened his eyes. The crew stepped back. They're waking up? The captain asked. The pilot smiled. No, just one. The first. He turned back to the main screen. One is enough. Outside, the Vorlak command ship launched missiles. Revenant turned fast. Too fast for such an old ship. It dodged with perfect timing. It predicted every attack before it happened. Then, from its sides, rail cannons emerged. The human pressed one button. In an instant, 3 Vorlak warships were pierced through like paper. Inside one of the enemy bridges, a general screamed, "It's reading our minds. How is that possible?" The answer was simple. The Revenant had studied their species, their tactics, their fears for centuries. It didn't just fight. It hunted. Back inside, the Vorlak soldier Darnuk tried to escape. He ran toward the rear bay, searching for a way out. But the ship closed the hallway. Darnuk turned and saw the wall ripple. A figure stepped out, not the pilot. Something else, a humanoid shadow. No eyes, no mouth. Just smooth skin and long arms. It grabbed Darnuk in seconds. He screamed, and then silence. The crew heard the scream through the ship's speakers. One soldier whispered, "What was that?" The pilot replied without emotion, "The ship protects me. It creates forms to defend itself, shadows, weapons made of memory." The captain was pale. "You mean, it makes monsters?" "No," the pilot said softly. "It makes justice." Jula stared at him. "You still feel pain?" He nodded slowly. "Every second. That's why I cannot sleep again. I carry the memory of every fallen soldier, every burned city, every lost child." He looked at the stars through the ship's screen. "Do your people remember what they did to Earth?" Jula whispered, "We were not born then, but your empire still exists. And it still kills." Outside, the fleet began to retreat. Fear had spread. Ships jumped to hyperspace without orders. The Revenant had destroyed 8 ships without taking damage. A legend had returned. A ghost from history. And now the galaxy would remember. Humanity never forgets. Back inside, the pilot turned to his prisoners. "You will live," he said. "Not because you deserve mercy, but because someone must tell the truth." The ship slowed down. Destination, Old Earth. He stood staring ahead. It's time to go home. The warship Revenant moved quietly through space. Behind it, dozens of Vorlak ships floated in ruins. The survivors had fled. The legends had begun to spread. But inside the ship, things were far from quiet. Jula, the alien scientist, stood beside the human pilot. Her hands were shaking, her voice low. "You were asleep for 300 years. How can you still fight like this?" The man did not answer right away. His glowing blue eyes stared into the stars. Then he spoke. "I was not sleeping. I was waiting." The remaining Vorlak crew 4 now stood silently behind him. They didn't try to resist anymore. They had seen enough. Jula took a deep breath. "Who are you? Not your Cody name, your real name." The man looked at her. For the first time, something in his eyes changed. A memory, a pain. "My name was Commander Elias Rain, Earth Defense Force, Special Unit, Revenant." He looked down. "I was the last weapon, built when Earth was burning." The ship's lights dimmed. Then, slowly, The walls lit up with holograms, images from the past, cities in flames, skies full of alien ships, children crying, soldiers dying. Jula stared at the images, her mouth slightly open. I thought it was a war. It wasn't a war, Elias said coldly. It was a cleansing. He pointed to a destroyed city on the screen. That was New Berlin. 20 million people, gone in 7 minutes. Another image appeared. A white dome shattering, Geneva. Earth's last peace council, the bomb during surrender talks. The other Vorlax looked down in shame. Their empire had hidden these truths for centuries. History told them humans were aggressive, dangerous, unstable, but now, the truth stood in front of them, and it was more terrifying than any lie. Elias continued, his voice cold and steady. We were losing, our fleets destroyed, our colonies captured. So the leaders made a final plan. Jula listened closely. Elias walked toward a control panel and tapped it. A secret door opened. Inside was a small chamber glowing blue. Inside was a memory core. This, Elias said, is Project Revenant's brain. A copy of all human knowledge. Science, strategy, history, emotions. He turned to face them. They put it inside me. Jula's eyes widened. You carry all of humanity's knowledge? He nodded. And their pain. The ship slowed down. Outside the windows, a broken solar system came into view. Dead planets, ash clouds, floating ruins. Jula gasped. Is this Earth's system? Elias nodded. This was home. They passed a shattered moon. Broken pieces spun silently in space. Then they reached the third planet. Earth. Or what was left of it. The planet was black. No oceans, no clouds, no green. Just gray ash and molten land. The atmosphere burned away long ago. Jula covered her mouth. How did this happen? Elias stared at the ruins. The Vorlik Empire used a planet-killer device, a sunspear. It cracked the Earth's core. The other aliens took a step back. One whispered, We didn't know. That's why you're still alive, Elias said coldly. So you will learn. So your people will remember. The ship slowly entered orbit. And then, a signal appeared on the screens. A human signal. Everyone froze. Jula looked at Elias. But Earth is dead. Elias didn't move. That's what I thought. The signal was repeating one phrase. Unit Revenant 1. Echo found. Echo found. Protocol. Memory lock alpha. Location. Vault 0. Jula turned. What is Vault 0? Elias was silent. Then he whispered. It was humanity's last secret. The ship adjusted course. It descended toward a deep crater on Earth's surface. Through the dust, a metallic structure appeared. Ancient, huge, hidden beneath layers of rock. Massive doors slowly opened as the ship approached. The Revenant entered. Inside the crater was a city, not destroyed, but preserved. The crew walked out into the structure. Dust floated around them, but the buildings were clean, silent. Lights flickered as the systems powered on. In the center of the city stood a tall tower. At its base was a stasis pod. Inside it was a child. Human. Sleeping. Jula gasped. A survivor? Elias stepped forward. He scanned the pod. The readings were real. Heartbeat detected. Cryostasis stable. Estimated age 8. He reached forward and touched the glass. This was my daughter's age when she died. Jula whispered. Is she your? No, Elias said, but she's still hope. Suddenly, the city's main system activated. A voice, female and warm, echoed through the chamber. Welcome home, Commander Rain. Humanity awaits. Tears filled Elias's eyes. I thought I was the last. I thought it was over. He looked up. I was wrong. Jula stepped closer. What now? Elias stared at the child. Now I protect what's left. He turned toward the alien crew. You will leave. You will carry this story back to your empire. You will tell them what you saw. The captain nodded slowly. We will. The Revenant powered down its weapons. Elias placed his hand on the pod. For 300 years, I was a weapon. He looked up, his voice soft. But now, I am a father. The ancient vault was quiet. The air inside was still, untouched for centuries. Dust floated gently through beams of fading light. The building stood tall, but empty. It was the last human city, hidden, buried deep beneath the surface of Earth, a forgotten memory of a lost race. And now, it had been found. Commander Elias Rain stood in front of the cryopod. Inside it, the young human girl slept peacefully. She had not aged a day in 300 years. The alien scientist Jula stood beside him. She's alive. How is that possible? Stasis technology, Elias replied, his voice low. Our best minds built this place to protect something. Someone. A last chance. A second beginning. He placed his hand on the glass. Jula asked, will you wake her up? Elias didn't answer. Instead, the ship's voice spoke. Warning, incoming fleet detected. Vorlak signature, 200 ships. Jula turned quickly. They found us. Elias's eyes glowed blue as he turned toward the entrance. Of course they did. They always follow destruction. The Revenant warship, still docked at the vault gate, powered up. Its lights turned from blue to red. Defense mode, active. Protocol shield will engaged. Elias walked back into the ship, silent and focused. The remaining Vorlek crew followed behind him, no longer enemies, but silent witnesses. Inside the bridge, Elias sat in the command chair again. Tubes connected to his arms and back. The ship welcomed him like a heartbeat rejoining a body. Welcome, Commander. Ready to fight. Elias looked at the screen. 200 ships. Heavy cannons, dreadnought-class cruisers. The full force of the Vorlak Dominion. All this, Elias said, for one child. He whispered, they're afraid. Jula spoke from behind, voice trembling. What are you going to do? Elias didn't move. Protect her. That's all that matters now. In space above, the Vorlak admiral sat inside the massive command ship VN's Tyrant. He sneered at the data. Revenant located. Primary objective, eliminate the human AI. Secondary objective, retrieve the child. He gave the command. All ships, prepare orbital fire. The sky above the vault turned dark. The sun disappeared behind the fleet. The planet was moments away from another extinction, but this time, humanity had a shield. Elias pressed his hand on the control panel. The Revenant ship lifted from the vault and flew up, fast like a bullet. The city sealed itself behind it, hiding the girl once more. The Vorlak fleet began to fire. Plasma beams, missiles, RAIL, GUNS. Elias gave one order. Let's remind them what fear feels like. The Revenant moved like no other ship. It dodged between blasts, bent gravity, redirected missiles into enemy hulls. It didn't just fight. It danced. One Vorlak ship exploded, then another, then 5 more. Inside the Vorlak fleet, panic spread. It's predicting our moves. Our systems are failing. It's in our comms. Elias was not just flying the ship, he was inside. Their networks, reading their minds, using their own systems against them. Back on the surface, Jula watched the sky light up. The crew stood around her. No one spoke. They were watching something they didn't believe was possible. A human ship alone, fighting an empire. And winning. But then, the Tyrant moved forward. Massive, deadly, shielded with energy layers thick enough to withstand suns. Inside it, the Admiral laughed. Enough games, fire the core lance. The ship aimed a golden cannon toward the Revenant, a weapon strong enough to split a planet. The Revenant's system screamed. Warning, core lance locked. recommend retreat. But Elias stayed calm. No, we ended here. He redirected all energy to forward shields. The ship began to charge toward the tyrant, one man, one ship, against a mountain. The core lance fired. A massive beam shot through space like the breath of a dying star. It hit the Revenant, full impact. The sky turned white. Jula cried out, "No!" But when the light cleared, the Revenant was still there. Burning, damaged, but not destroyed. Elias's voice echoed through the enemy. "Fleet, you destroyed my home. You burned our world. But we are still here. And we remember." He launched the Revenant's final weapon. The memory pulse. It wasn't a bomb. It was truth. A blast of human history. Images, screams, pain, faces spread into every enemy ship. Officers collapsed. Soldiers screamed. They saw what the Vorlek Empire had hidden from them. They saw what they did to Earth, and they broke. One by one, enemy ships turned off weapons. Some fled. Some self-destructed. The tyrant lost all systems, inside. The Admiral stared at his screen, shaking. What have we done?" Elias's voice answered. "You woke the dead. Now carry their memory." The Revenant returned to Earth's orbit, burning, but alive. The child remained untouched. Safe. Inside the control room, Elias collapsed. The systems detached from him. Jula rushed to his side. "You did it. You saved her." Elias looked weak, tired, but peaceful. "I saved what mattered." He smiled. "She's not just a child. She is our future." The Revenant drifted silently above the dead Earth. Inside the ship, Elias sat alone, staring at the stars. His mind was not quiet. It was filled with memories, ghosts of a past long gone. Suddenly, the ship's system activated a hologram. A recorded memory labeled Elias Rain, training log number 57. The hologram flickered to life. Elias was young, barely out of his teens. His eyes bright with hope and determination. The voice of a stern instructor filled the room. "Your mission is clear. Protect Earth. Defend humanity, no matter the cost." Young Elias stood tall. "I will not fail." The instructor's gaze was hard. "You carry the weight of millions. You are humanity's last hope." The scene changed. Elias was now in a brutal training field. Machines fired laser blasts at him. He dodged, rolled, and counterattacked with skill no human should have at his age. He was fast, strong, smart, but behind his eyes was a storm. Cut to a quiet room. Elias sat with a woman. His wife, Mara. She smiled softly, holding his hand. "You carry so much inside you. Don't lose yourself." Elias smiled back. "I fight for her, for our daughter," Mara nodded. "Then come back to us." The hologram ended. Elias sat back, his face shadowed. A new memory began. The last days of Earth. Cities were burning. Sirens screamed. People ran for shelter. Elias stood on a rooftop, holding Mara and a small child, their daughter. "Stay close," he whispered. Below, alien ships fired plasma beams. The sky was red with fire. "We must escape," Mara cried. But there was no escape. A massive explosion shook the ground. Elias shielded his family. He looked up and saw a giant beam descending, the Vorlek Sun Spear weapon. The city was being torn apart. He grabbed Mara and the child, running through rubble and fire. "Hold on," he said, tears streaming. Suddenly, an explosion threw them apart. Elias fell unconscious. The memory faded. When Elias woke, he was in the Revenant pod, wired to the ship. He remembered the last message. From Earth Command, Project Revenant activated. "You are our shield, our sword. You will carry our legacy." His wife and daughter? Gone. Elias clenched his fists. "I was born for war," he whispered. "But I fight for love." Back in the present, Jula entered. "You carry so much pain," she said softly. Elias looked at her. "Pain is memory. Memory is power. He stood up. The Revenant awakens not just to fight, but to remember, to protect. Outside, the Vorlek fleet was rebuilding. They knew the Revenant would return, but Elias was ready. He was no longer just a weapon. He was a ghost from the past and the hope for the future. The Revenant floated above the broken earth, glowing like a ghost in the dark sky. Inside, Elias Rain prepared for the fight that would decide the future, not just for himself, but for humanity's last hope, the sleeping child, the Vorlek fleet was back, bigger, stronger, more ruthless. Elias's crew, few but loyal, stood ready. The alien scientist Jula looked at the captain. "This battle, it's do or die." Elias nodded. "Then we die fighting." Outside, the Vorlek admiral's voice boomed over the fleet's comms. "Surrender the Revenant and the child, or we burn this planet to ashes." Elias answered with cold calm. "You will burn your empire before you take her." The battle began. With a thunderous roar, missiles flashed through space. Plasma beams cut through darkness. The Revenant dodged, moved like a shadow, fast and deadly. But the Vorlek were many. Their ships surrounded the Revenant like wolves closing in on a lone. Dear dot inside the ship, alarms blared. Shields failing on port side. A soldier shouted, "Engage emergency thrusters." Elias ordered. The Revenant's hull groaned under fire. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. A massive explosion rocked the engine room. Elias knew what it meant. The Vorlek had breached the ship. In the dark corridors, shadows moved silently. A traitor. One of the Vorlek crew had turned. He whispered a secret code into his com. "Revenant compromised. Prepare boarding party." Elias's heart raced. He could not allow the enemy inside. He ordered the crew to seal all doors, but it was too late. In the cargo bay, Vorlek soldiers poured in like a flood. They clashed with Elias's team. Blasters fired, knives flashed. The air was thick with smoke and screams. Elias fought at the front, his sword cutting through armor like paper. Meanwhile, Jula rushed to the cryo-chamber. The child stirred. Jula whispered, "Stay safe. We need her." But the ship trembled. In the fight, Elias faced the traitor, a Vorlek named Krell. "You fight for a lost cause." Krell sneered. Elias smiled coldly. "I fight for the future." They clashed. The battle was fierce, but Elias's determination was stronger. He pushed Krell back, knocking the weapon from his hands. With a swift move, Elias ended the fight. Suddenly, the ship's eye warned, core systems failing, reactor overload imminent. Elias knew the ship would not last. He gave one final order: prepare to evacuate. Jula helped the crew reach escape pods, but Elias stayed. He would not leave without the child. In the cryo chamber, Elias carefully opened the pod. The child's eyes opened. She looked at him. No fear, only hope. "Come with me," Elias said softly. Together, they ran through the shaking corridors. The ship trembled. Outside, the Vorlak fleet fired a massive blast. The Revenant exploded, but the escape pods launched just in time. Elias and the child drifted in space. Safe. As they watched the Revenant burn, Elias whispered, "This is not the end." The child smiled. "We are just beginning." The escape pod floated silently in the vast darkness of space. Inside, Elias Rain held the child close. The ruins of the Revenant burned far behind them, a ghost fading into history. The silence was heavy, but in that quiet, a new hope was born. Child looked up at Elias, her eyes wide with wonder. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. Elias smiled tiredly. "To find a new home. A place where humanity can live again." She nodded. "I want to see the stars." Outside the pod, the stars sparkled cold and distant. But inside, warmth grew. Elias reached out to the pod's controls and activated a beacon. A signal strong enough to be heard across galaxies. A call for help. A call for allies. Days passed. Their supplies ran low, but Elias never gave up. He told stories of Earth, of its beauty and pain. The child listened, learning what it meant to be human. One day, the pod sensors detected a ship approaching. A small vessel, alien, but not hostile. The hatch opened. A crew of explorers appeared. They smiled. "Welcome," they said. "We heard your call." Elias felt a surge of hope. "We are not alone," he whispered. Together, they set course for a new world, a place untouched by war. As they traveled, Elias taught the child everything. How to survive, how to lead. How to remember, for memory was humanity's greatest weapon and greatest gift. Weeks later, the new planet appeared, a blue and green jewel against the black void. Elias looked at the child. "This is our new home." She smiled brightly. "We will make it better." They landed. The explorers helped build a settlement. Life began again. Children laughed. Birds sang. The sun shone on a new dawn. One night, Elias stood outside, looking at the stars. The child came to his side. "Will we ever forget Earth?" He shook his head. "No, we remember to be stronger." She smiled. "And we will never give up." Far away, across the galaxy, a new chapter began. Humanity was reborn. Stronger. Wiser. Unbroken. The end.